testimony, specifically testimony given by Dolores Suel, will be adopted in its entirety.
Your Honor, we would call Jill Dent.
All right, so come around.
Do you affirm that the testimony you were given in this case is the truth and nothing but the whole truth, so help you God?
Now, in your capacity as the Director of the Early Childhood Care and Development, is one of your functions or responsibilities to prepare economic impact statements?
Yes.
And you prepared the information that was used in the economic impact statement in this case, correct?
I prepared the statement, yes.
You prepared the statement. Now, initially, Ms. Dent, when you announced when the finger scanner program was announced, you told the public that no economic impact statement was needed, correct?
I believe so.
And why did you tell the public that no economic impact statement was needed?
Because this is a volunteer program. The child care payments is a volunteer program.
And so then why have you done an economic impact statement now if no economic impact statement is needed because the program is voluntary?
Advisement from my attorney.
So is an economic impact?
Can you clarify that, Ben, just on the basis of the, Mr. Scales, I know had previously, represented the department at the initial hearing.
Yes, Your Honor.
But my understanding was at this point it's not, and so voluntary, so could you shed some light on that?
Yes, Your Honor. Initial, we were gonna have a voluntary rollout, but this was gonna be fully implemented over a period of time to affect all child care providers. If that is responsive to your.
I think yeah.
So Ms. Dent, as you sit here on the stand today, is it your testimony that no economic impact statement is needed before finger scanning can be implemented?
We needed to do one. I learned through our discussions that we needed to do one because of the unlicensed providers having to acquire a telephone line if they did not already have one, so that would impact their income as to having their phone line.
So that was the only reason that's the only reason you believe that an economic impact statement was necessary in this case? Was because unlicensed providers were gonna have to provide, have a telephone line for the
That's the reason
IVR
we did it.
system?
That's the reason we did it.
Okay, and that's the only reason? Is that the only reason
Yes.
you did it? No other reasons?
Right.
Okay, now, this economic impact statement, this was not the first time that you prepared an economic impact statement, is it?
I think we did another one, yes.
And what did you do the other one on?
It was on the same project.
And didn't you do an economic impact statement when y'all were moving to e-ledger?
I don't remember. It may have been.
Have you ever seen this document?
Yes.
Okay. And tell the court, if you would, what that is.
It's the economic impact statement that I did.
That you did when?
For the conversion of moving into e-ledgers.
And when did that conversion take place?
Providers started e-ledger in February of 12.
February of 2012. And what was the e-ledger program supposed to do?
It collected the attendance for child care providers to submit their ledgers electronically instead of by paper.
And when y'all moved to e-ledger, you were moving from a paper-based system to an electronic system, supposed to, according to your economic impact statement that you completed, that was going to save the department some $3.5 million, correct?
That is correct, and we did.
Okay, and according to you, that was going to allow y'all to serve another, 1,500 children, correct?
That was our projection, and we did. In April, we brought on 1,400 children from the waiting list.
Would you take a look at that document and, identify it, please?
It's our stats that are published on our website.
And up until March of 2012, the department was reporting the number of children who were added to the child care certificate program, correct?
Yes, we did report that.
You did not report it on the document that the department uses to report the number of children that are added to the program, correct? According to that document.
Right.
For April of 2012, what does it say for?
Oh, we don't have the stats.
Now, Ms. Dent, the department keeps records on the number of children that they add to the child certificate program, correct?
Yes.
And you just testified that in April of 2012, that y'all added 1,400 children to the program?
Yes. And so when we would, go through and filter reports and filter numbers, we would ask our team at ITS to validate the data that we were reporting. And so through that validation, we were able to get solid numbers of 1,400 children that we added from one period to the period in April.
Now, you said that you added 1,400 children in April, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but that's not shown on the document,
No, it's
correct?
not,
It
because
says that the numbers are not available.
That is correct.
Correct, and it shows that they're not available for how many months past April?
6.
Okay, for 6 more months, and you still have not published those numbers, the 1,400 on your website. Those numbers still are being reported as not available, correct?
We have not.
How much money, according to you, did y'all have to spend on this program?
The projected cost for this next fiscal year is anywhere from 1.2 to 1.6 million.
Can you identify this document, please?
This is the approval form from ITS. For the services for e-Childcare.
And how much does it show that they will be paid?
With the effective date and expiration date on this approval form through January 31st of 2018, that they could receive payment for $12,893.
Okay, and how many payments?
12 million, I'm sorry.
How many payments does the document say that they were going to receive?
It says 1, but that's, I don't know why it says 1.
So according to your DHS document.
No, this is not DHS document.
It's a
This is
state, okay.
ITS's document.
ITS, and y'all partner with ITS to do the technology, correct?
Right.
Okay. So do you have any reason to think that they would post a document that has inaccurate information?
Objection, Your Honor, you've got some respect for you.
Sustain to the form of the question, or
Okay.
rephrase the question.
The document says they're gonna make one payment, correct?
That's what it says, but
Okay.
that is not accurate.
Okay, but, Your Honor, we move to have this document entered into evidence.
All right, any objection?
Subject to my previous objection.
Oh, okay, then it may be fine.
According to your economic impact statement, is it your testimony that there was no cost to, licensed childcare providers?
That's correct.
What about them having to have a place in their centers outfitted so that this equipment could be stored properly?
We see the, childcare providers as, their own business. They have to make business decisions. Where they wanted to put the equipment was up to them. We provided, certain pieces of certain lines, a 6-foot internet line, a 6-foot phone line, if they chose to take either or use either option. We also included, a splitter in case they wanted to use the phone line, to be able to hook up their phone to it as well. But it's up to the provider as to where they wanna put the machine and how they wanna store it and where they wanna put it in their business.
But they have a responsibility to maintain this machine in good condition, correct?
Right.
Because they're going to be responsible if the, machine is broken.
Correct.
Okay, so you can't just put the machine anywhere, correct?
It's up to them as to where they wanna put it.
So, because if it's broken, then they can just pay for it, correct? Isn't it true that you and your public, memorandums to childcare providers told them to check with their insurance companies about insuring this equipment?
They could if that was their choice of their business decision.
And when you insure a product, you have to pay for that, right?
If they chose to.
Because ultimately, they were gonna be responsible, correct?
Yes.
For paying for it.
If it's not cared for, yes.
And you indicated that there was a warranty in the contract?
There's a clause in the contract where they are, responsible for paying for the equipment if it is broken. That's what I meant.
Do you consider the cost of replacement as an impact to the, childcare providers?
No, because I do not believe that they will break it.
Well, just because you believe that it won't happen doesn't mean that it won't, correct? Correct?
It's possible.
How did you collect the data and the methodology that you used to make your estimates?
We had, gone through several different, we have met several times, many times about cost analysis. We had looked at, the cost savings reflected from what we were spending on the designated agents, as well as, what it would cost for us to move to e-ledgers, and then what it would cost and what it would save in both, stages throughout, the development of the cost analysis with moving to, this project with e-Childcare. We knew that we had to take, steps to get to where we wanted to get to through using, technology. And, so we, also had conversations with other states, in, our research, and, tried to learn as much information about it as we possibly could, and, evaluated the, pros and cons of all of it, and then, we were able to create the, cost benefit analysis through that methodology, through all the information that we had learned through our research.
You went to Louisiana and looked at their program?
We did.
And you said that you gleaned information from Oklahoma because they had a similar program?
We did.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that Oklahoma uses a EBT card?
They do use a card system.
Okay. And, you have an EBT card, DHS uses it for the SNAP and food stamp program?
Yes.
Okay. And when you, if you use EBT, that costs about 81 cents, doesn't it?
I don't know.
If you're going to, wasn't it your job in, preparing this economic impact statement to look at similar or alternative methods where DHS could track time and attendance?
We did look at using a card system.
Okay, and you said that you simply decided not to use the card because it was reported in other states that people were, leaving their cards at the child care centers, correct?
That is what we found in the research.
Okay, but that was something that happened in another state, correct?
That is what we found in our research.
But that did not happen in Mississippi, correct?
No, because we haven't implemented the program.
Your testimony is that you never compared, what it would cost to do, how much it would cost if Mississippi used the EBT cards like every other state in the nation except for Louisiana.
Objective.
Rephrase your question.
What other states are you aware of that uses, finger scanning?
Louisiana.
Okay. And all the other states that you are aware of that track time and attendance track is how?
Through the card.
Through the card. So is your testimony that you never considered or compared what it would cost in Mississippi to use a card to track time and attendance?
We evaluated the benefits of using a card as well as the cons of using a card. And when we did that, we realized that it would be a waste of money to implement the card system.
Whether you determined it would be a waste of money or not, according to Mississippi law, you were supposed to determine whether there were less costly methods or less intrusive methods, right, for tracking time and attendance. Correct?
That is correct, but we already had the e-ledgers, which was the same thing, basically, because it was self-report.
Okay, so why was there a need then to spend $12 million that could have been used to add more children to the certificate program if you had something that was working?
We wanted to collect the data from the children when they entered care. We also wanted to be able to reduce fraud and be able to get more, accurate information about attendance for the children within the state.
This $1.6 million that you say is the estimated cost for the voluntary program, that number is incorrect, correct?
That was an estimate that we did at the time.
Okay.
We are thinking that it's 1.2 to 1.6 for e-Childcare.
Okay. But, you've already spent $1.7 million on the machines, right?
Well, that was in a previous fiscal year.
Okay, but still, when you're talking about the economic impact, you don't just isolate 1 year, do you? You tell the truth about how much money total is being spent. So this $1.6 million does not reflect the total amount of money spent on e-Childcare, correct?
It says that it's the federal fiscal year 2013,
Yes.
it's 1.6.
For 1.6, that's for that year, but you spent money in 2012, correct?
Yes.
So that would be part of the cost to the agency, correct? Or to the state, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's not reflected in this economic impact statement, correct?
It may be in the next page.
Okay, let me give you a document.
And those funds weren't out of
this
They were
that-
out of, the governor gave us those funds.
Now, this doesn't say, tell us how much came out of DHS's budget, does it? Item number 6,
No.
number 4, you're to estimate the cost to the agency or to any other state or local government entity, that would include the governor, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't include that amount that the governor spent. Now, are you suggesting that the amount that the governor spent is contained elsewhere in this economic impact statement?
I was just getting clarification of the source of funding.
So actually, we have this should be 1.6 million plus 1.7 million, correct? So we're talking about $4 million right here, the total cost so far for this program, correct?
And that was the estimate that was for 2013 was 1.6 million, but since we have not been able to start yet, we have not spent near that.
But
So, that 1.6 million as an estimate is extremely lower than what our estimated cost is now, so.
But you haven't issued a revised economic impact statement, have you?
No.
Okay. And back to my question, if you take the figure that's listed here, 1.6 million plus the 1.7 million and the 700,000, that's about $4 million.
Yes.
For the cost to any state agency for implementing this program, finger scanning. You talked about the EBT card, and isn't it true that when, the current governor was the state auditor, that he recommended that DHS move to the EBT card for tracking time and attendance?
I believe his recommendation was moving to an automated system.
Have you ever seen that document, Dr. Dent?
Yes.
And what is that?
This is the audit that Phil Bryant as state auditor conducted on the program.
And where he recommended that y'all move to EBT?
I interpreted as an automated system, not just to EBT.
But at the time when he made this, audit, weren't y'all using EBT in other areas?
I'm not sure. I was not at the agency then, so I'm not sure about that.
The debit card system, do you see that, e-Childcare, the debit card system? It's the only audit that, was done, and they've used this audit and talked about it. In fact, I have where Jill Dent talked about this audit before at a public hearing, Your Honor, so she's familiar with the audit.
Okay, but
And it goes to issue number 4, Your Honor, where they're supposed to describe any less intrusive or less costly alternative methods. That's what they were supposed to do in preparing this economic impact statement.
all right.
Again, Your Honor, she's not prepared this audit. This is a 2007 audit.
I'll overrule the objection.
Dr. Dent, are you familiar with the audit that was conducted by then State Auditor Phil Bryant?
Yes.
Okay, and you talked about this audit in your public hearings, correct?
Yes.
And cited it as one reason for moving to, the finger scanning, correct?
Yes, that we needed to make, the system more electronic.
And if you would, on page 25, the top page, what's the recommendation?
That, MDHS continue considering the use of electronic payment card system as an option to enhance the operating efficiency
Can you identify this document, please?
This is the, approval form from ITS, for the, services for e-Childcare.
And how much does it show that they will be paid?
With the effective date and expiration date on this approval form through January 31st of 2018, that they could receive payment for $12,893.
Okay, and how many payments?
12 million, I'm
How
sorry.
many payments does the document say that they were going to receive?
It says one, but that's, I don't know why it says one.
So according to your DHS document.
No, this is not DHS document.
It's a state, okay.
ITS's document.
ITS, and y'all partner with ITS to do the technology, correct?
Right.
Okay. So do you have any reason to think that they would post a document that has inaccurate information?
Objection, Your Honor, you've got some respect for you. She said
Pertaining
it's
to
not
the
done.
form of question.
Okay.
Rephrase your question.
The document says they're gonna make one payment, correct?
That's what it says, but
Okay.
that is not accurate.
Okay, but, Your Honor, we move to have this document entered into evidence.
All right, any objection?
Subject to my previous objection.
Oh, okay, then it may be fine.
Now, it's your job as the Director of Early Childhood Care and Development to identify fraud. That's one of your roles, right?
Yes,
And to wipe it out.
yes.
Correct. And that was one of the reasons why y'all moved from this paper-based system, because it was easier for fraud to be committed when you had the paper-based system, correct?
Yes,
And when you had the PDDs in place.
yes.
Okay, and would you agree with me that you saw a reduction in fraud after you moved away from the PDDs?
We had fewer instances.
And according to this report on page 35, how much question calls did you have related to the child care certificate program in your 2012 annual report?
$61,675.
So you would spend $12 million to get rid of $61,000 in fraud?
Objection, Your Honor, it's a mischaracterization of all the previous